Close your eyes and picture red. Easy. Now picture a color you've never seen before. Not a shade of something existing. Not a mix, a genuinely new color, something that has never existed anywhere in your visual experience. You can't do it. And the strange part isn't that you failed. The strange part is that you probably didn't even feel yourself hitting a wall. You just couldn't. Like trying to remember a dream that was already gone before you woke up. There's nothing there. Not even the absence of something. Just a blank where the thing should be. That blank has a name. And it points to something about your mind that most people spend their entire lives never noticing. Your eyes contain 3 types of cone cells. Each one is sensitive to a different range of light wavelengths. One peaks toward red, one toward green, one toward blue. Every color you have ever seen in your entire life, every sunset, every painting, every screen you've ever looked at is just a combination of signals from those 3 cone types firing in different ratios. That's it. The entire visual universe you inhabit is built from 3 inputs, and your brain takes those 3 inputs and constructs something that feels infinite. Feels. That word is doing a lot of work here. Because here's what that means. There are colors of light that exist physically, wavelengths your eyes simply cannot detect that would require a 4th cone to process. Mantis shrimp have 16 different cone types. They can see ultraviolet, they can see polarized light, they can see wavelengths that don't have names in any human language because no human has ever experienced them. When a mantis shrimp looks at a reef, it is having a visual experience that you cannot access, cannot approximate, and cannot imagine. Not because you lack the words, because you lack the hardware. The imagination isn't blocked, it doesn't exist. This is where it starts to get uncomfortable. Most people, when they hear about the limits of human perception, assume the problem is vocabulary, that if we just had the right word, we could think the thought. But language isn't the ceiling here. Language is just a map. The ceiling is the brain itself. Philosophers call this the problem of qualia, the raw subjective texture of an experience. The specific redness of red isn't just information, it's a feeling, and the feeling is generated by your particular nervous system, processing a particular range of wavelengths. Change the hardware and you change the feeling. You don't just get more data, you get a different world. In the 1980s, a researcher named Hewitt Crane and a colleague proposed a thought experiment around what they called forbidden colors. Colors that your visual system is theoretically capable of producing, but never does under normal conditions because of how your cone cells are wired. Red, green, yellow, blue, colors that cancel each other out at the processing level. Your brain runs opponent processing, meaning certain signals actively suppress each other. Red suppresses green, blue suppresses yellow. You never see them simultaneously, which is why a reddish green sounds like nonsense the same way a square circle does. Not unfamiliar, structurally impossible. But in 2006, vision scientists Shea and Say ran an experiment where they stared subjects at specific color fields long enough to fatigue the opponent channels, and some subjects reported seeing colors they couldn't describe, colors they had no names for, colors they said felt wrong somehow. Not unpleasant, just alien. Like seeing a new primary. Most of them found the experience mildly disturbing, not because the color was frightening, because their brain had no category for it. The label drawer was empty. The experience had arrived, but there was nowhere to put it. That feeling, the experience arriving with nowhere to go, is closer to the actual limit than most people ever get. Because here's the thing about imagination that nobody tells you. It isn't creative in the way you think it is. It's combinatorial. Your brain takes things you have already experienced and recombines them. A purple elephant, a city underwater, a sound like thunder but softer. All of those are built from components you already have. Purple from prior color experience, elephant from prior visual memory, underwater from prior physical sensation. Your brain is extraordinarily good at mixing. It is completely incapable of inventing a new ingredient. You cannot imagine a color you've never seen for the same reason you cannot imagine a sense you've never had. There's no raw material. The factory can only work with what's been delivered. This isn't a bug. It's almost certainly a feature. A brain that could generate genuinely novel sensory data from nothing would be a brain that couldn't reliably distinguish reality from hallucination. The constraint that limits your imagination is the same constraint that keeps you sane. The walls of your perceptual world are also the walls of your sanity, but they are still walls. And here's where the question stops being about color and starts being about something bigger. If your imagination is bounded by your sensory hardware, and your sensory hardware is bounded by your evolutionary history, then your entire inner life, every thought you've ever had, every feeling, every idea, is built from the same small set of raw materials your ancestors needed needed to survive a particular environment on a particular planet. You didn't choose those materials, you inherited them, and you can no more think outside them than you can see outside your visual spectrum. Some philosophers find this deeply troubling, others find it clarifying. Thomas Nagel, in his famous paper on what it's like to be a bat, made the same argument from a different angle. We can study bat echolocation completely, map every neuron, measure every signal, and we will still never know what it feels like to navigate by sound reflection from the inside. The subjective texture of that experience is permanently inaccessible to us, not because we lack the data, because we lack the organ that would generate the feeling. And if that's true for bats, it's probably true in directions we can't even articulate. There may be forms of experience in this universe that we cannot approach from any angle, not because they're hidden, but because we're not built to reach them. What's stranger still is that most people live their entire lives without noticing the walls. You move through a world that feels complete, full, visually saturated. You don't walk around with a sense that you're missing wavelengths. The brain doesn't flag the absence, it just fills in the frame and calls it reality. The missing colors don't feel missing. They feel like they were never there to begin with, because for you they weren't. There are people born with a fourth cone type. Tetrachromats, mostly women, due to a genetic variation on the X chromosome. They have an extra cone sitting somewhere between red and green, theoretically capable of distinguishing colors that appear identical to everyone else. Studies suggest roughly 2 to 3% of women may carry this mutation, but here's the twist. Most of them don't seem to experience dramatically richer color vision in daily life, because having the hardware isn't enough. The brain also has to learn to use it. The extra cone only produces genuinely expanded color perception in people who were exposed to complex, varied color environments during the developmental window when the visual cortex was still wiring itself. The eye opened, but the brain didn't always know what to do with it. Perception isn't just hardware, it's hardware plus history, which means the limits of your imagination aren't fixed at birth. They're fixed by the time your brain finishes building itself from experience. After that, the walls are mostly set. Not completely, but mostly. So go back to the beginning, close your eyes, try to picture a color you've never seen. You still can't, but now maybe you feel the wall a little differently. It's not a blank, it's a boundary. One that was built from every light source you encountered before you were old enough to question it. One that feels like the edge of everything, because for you, inside your particular nervous system, it is. The world you see is not the world. It's the world your 3 cone types can report on. And somewhere just past the edge of what you can picture, there's a reef, and something is looking at it, and it is having an experience you will never have. Not approximately, not partially, not with better words, never. And the unsettling part isn't that the color exists, it's that your brain won't even let you miss it.